Welcome to this video on how extended foreign study can risk abandonment of U.S. permanent residency. Today, we will unpack myths, real-world risk factors, the re-entry permit, and strategies to keep the U.S. as your primary home while you study abroad. We will also cover the immigrant intent trap and how to plan for naturalization. Stay through the end for a concise checklist and timeline examples. In this agenda, we outline why the topic matters, what the 6-month myth gets wrong, which indicators officers actually consider, how the reentry permit works, what the immigrant intent trap is, and how to protect your ability to visit family in the future. We will finish with a practical checklist, a timeline plan, and a couple of quick quizzes. This video provides general educational information and is not legal advice. Immigration outcomes depend on your specific facts. You should consult a qualified U.S. immigration attorney before making decisions about travel, re-entry permits, or naturalization. First, let's set the stakes. Many permanent residents study or work abroad assuming that brief returns every few months are enough to keep their green card secure. However, abandonment is not only about time. It is about where the center of your life is. If a CBP officer decides you relocated your primary home abroad, you may face secondary inspection, referral to an immigration judge, or even a record of abandonment. Planning ahead is essential. Next, let's dismantle the 6-month myth. Many believe that as long as they return every 5 months and 29 days, they are safe. That is incorrect. Abandonment is about intent and where you maintain your primary residence, not just about the calendar. The analysis can start on the very first day of your trip abroad if you shift your life abroad. If your housing, education, and commitments are centered outside the United States, short returns may be insufficient to prove you have not relocated your primary home. Moving forward, officers evaluate the center of your life. First, primary residence, your lease or mortgage, where you receive mail, and where utilities are billed. Second, employment, where your main job is located or where your employer expects you to be based. A short-term job during breaks is helpful, but often outweighed by full-time study or residence abroad. Third, financial ties, where your bank accounts and credit activity exist and where you pay bills. Fourth, community and family ties, where you participate in social life and where your immediate family resides. These factors together form a picture of whether the United States remains your permanent home. Moreover, the strongest defense for extended or patterned absences is a re-entry permit. First, decide if you need it by assessing your study schedule and travel patterns. Second, you must file Form I-131 while you are physically present in the United States. Third, complete biometrics in the United States before leaving. Fourth, arrange how and where the permit will be delivered. Some opt for pickup abroad. Fifth, travel with the permit and evidence of U.S. ties. Sixth, monitor the validity. It's typically up to 2 years and can be renewed if necessary, subject to eligibility. If any attorney advises against an representative despite planned long absences, carefully consider getting a second opinion unless there is a serious legal issue like criminal history or prior abandonment findings. Let's compare scenarios. With a re-entry permit, you explicitly communicate your plan and preserve evidence of intent to keep the United States as your home, which can ease inspections and reduce abandonment risk. Without an REP, the burden to prove continuing U.S. residence is much higher. Frequent short visits may appear as commuting from a foreign base, increasing the risk of an abandonment determination. If permanent residency is lost, the immigrant intent presumption can make future visitor visas difficult, especially when immediate family remains in the United States. Furthermore, if you lose permanent resident status and you have close family living in the United States, obtaining a visitor visa can become extremely difficult. Officers often presume you will try to remain, given your family ties. The safer route is to protect your LPR status now and to prioritize naturalization as soon as you are eligible. If your graduation date aligns with your naturalization window, plan the application timeline early so that travel and eligibility milestones do not conflict. Quiz time. Question: true or false? As long as you return to the United States at least once every 6 months, you cannot be found to have abandoned your green card. Option A, true. Option B, false. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is false. The 6-month threshold is not a guarantee. Officers evaluate intent and the center of your life, including residence, employment, finances, and community ties. Abandonment findings can occur even when absences are shorter than 6 months. Second quiz. Which tool best protects a student who will study abroad for multiple long terms while keeping U.S. residency? Option A. Keeping a U.S. phone number only. 5. Option B. Occasional holiday trips back to the U.S. Option C. Re-entry permit, Form I-131, plus strong U.S. ties. Option D. Relying on family in the U.S. to vouch for you. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is the re-entry permit, Form I-131, combined with strong U.S. ties. A phone number or periodic trips are insufficient alone. Family ties can complicate non-immigrant visa eligibility if LPR status is lost. Formal documentation of intent is more persuasive during inspection. Here is a practical evidence checklist. For primary residences, maintain a U.S. lease or mortgage, keep utilities active, and receive mail domestically. For employment, document a U.S.-based job or a remote role anchored to a U.S. employer. Financial ties include active U.S. banking, credit cards, and investments. Community and family ties involve memberships, volunteering, and local participation. Keep travel documents organized, including your green card and re-entry permit. File U.S. tax returns appropriately where required. Finally, for education, carry letters that frame your foreign study as temporary and specify your expected return date. This timeline illustrates how to structure study abroad with protection. First, you file Form I-131 and complete biometrics before departure. During breaks, you return, renew housing, and keep financial activity current. Around tax season, you file as appropriate and document employment ties. Before the permit expires, you renew if needed. Finally, upon returning permanently, if eligible, you file for naturalization. This sequence preserves intent while aligning with academic milestones. This sequence diagram shows the re-entry moment. The permanent resident presents their passport and green card. The CBP officer asks about time spent abroad and current ties to the United States. The traveler provides the re-entry permit and supporting evidence, such as a lease, pay stubs, and bank records. After reviewing the documentation and answers, the officer determines the person has maintained U.S. residence and admits them as a returning permanent resident. To recap succinctly, the 6-month idea is not a safe harbor. Focus on where your real home base is. Your shield is a re-entry permit, combined with robust documentation of U.S. ties. Plan for naturalization as soon as you qualify to avoid future immigrant intent issues if your green card were ever at risk. These are the key takeaways. First, abandonment analysis can begin immediately if your center of life moves abroad. Second, officers assess residence, employment, financial, and community ties. Third, a re-entry permit is the most effective tool to protect intent during extended absences. Fourth, brief, routine visits do not conclusively demonstrate a U.S. primary home. Finally, protect your long-term mobility by maintaining LPR status and aiming for timely naturalization. In summary, keep the United States as your undeniable home base by maintaining residence, employment, financial, and community ties. Use a re-entry permit for extended or patterned absences. Anticipate the immigrant intent challenge and plan for citizenship eligibility. Travel with a concise plan that frames your study abroad as temporary and includes anticipated return dates. Thanks for watching. If this video helped you plan a safer study abroad path while protecting your status, please like the video, share it with classmates or family, and subscribe for more. In the comments, tell us your timeline and which evidence you plan to strengthen next. We look forward to hearing your strategies and questions.